Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back. This is John Cox with the John Talks Podcast. Lovely to see you all again. And this week I wanted to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, which is scaling the business. So at Aqua Vita, we're getting to a point now where we've been really good at consistently hitting the same production and revenue goals year over year, and we're ready to scale. So my Uncle Ralph, who was quite successful in business, used to tell me that the most difficult phase of a business is going from small to a medium or large size business. And I totally feel that. Another friend of mine, Sean Copeland, when I was talking to him a few months ago, said that this is him speaking to me, the stage of business that I'm at is harder than the stage that he's at. And I asked him, why is that? And he said, because you have fewer people to help. So that is absolutely true. When you're in the early stages of the business, you are the chief cook and bottle washer, as my mom used to say. You are sweeping the floors. You're probably doing elements of HR and budgeting and production and so on and so forth. And you get to a point, as I have with the business, where you realize you can't scale the business if you are the one that's actively involved with production. So then you start bringing on other team members, and you get to a point where, okay, with the systems that we have currently, I can manage this many people in this many systems. And then you get to the point where you realize that what got you to where you are will not get you to the next level. You are going to have to add new skills. You're going to have to learn new things and grow in different ways in your personality in order for you to grow past where you are. And that's definitely where I'm at right now. I feel like my whole life has been some version of that, but I wanted to condense that down into some things that I think have been particularly valuable and some things that we're doing currently to scale our business, to be really transparent with everybody and share what's working and what's making life less stressful and all that good stuff, because I want to spread that around. So, okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to call this Climb On, because rock climbing is also a hobby and an endeavor that is a special part of my past. It's something that helped me to manage my emotions early on when I had more than I could take. And the beautiful thing about climbing is that the more you do it and the more you persist through difficulty, because you're fighting against gravity, you're fighting against injury in some cases, you're fighting against fear, but the more you do that, the easier it becomes. So I just want to stress that in order to get to the point where you're ready to scale, you don't have to come from fantastic circumstances or a fantastic background with a perfect company and so on. I had a very rocky start in life. I came from a split home. I was raised, thankfully, by one of my parents, but she was a single mom with 4 kids, and we were in FHA housing. We were on food stamps at one point. And I had no clear direction early in my life. I didn't have people saying, John, you need to go to college, or you need to do this, or, here are the things that will ensure a good life if you are to do them consistently. But I knew that I had certain skills. So people would tell me that I was a good entertainer. I was good at parties and thinking about different foods and music that I'd put on and the atmosphere I wanted to create and so on. People tended to follow me from a young age. I remember being at my big brother's baseball game, and I was, going off and doing my own thing alone and like balancing on a fence and all that kind of stuff. And I would look behind me a couple minutes later, and there would be 2 kids behind me. And then 5 minutes later, I'd look behind me, there'd be 5 kids behind me, and they were all kind of following along and imitating what I was doing. Not what I intended, but it's just something that's happened consistently throughout my life. People have complimented me on my taste. So that showed up when I started getting my own place and I decorated it the way that I wanted to. And back when I was starting to DJ and I got to be very colorful and flamboyant in my outfits and I got to select music for people, they would compliment me on my taste. So people would compliment me on experiences that I created. So when I first had the ability to drive on my own, I had my own car with my own gas money and all that good stuff. I started exploring all over the state of Oklahoma, which for me just traveling a few miles was a big deal. To travel an hour or 3 hours, 4 hours in my car by myself was a huge deal. And so I started to visit places like Natural Falls in northeastern Oklahoma, the Heavener Runestone, which is cool if you're into history and Viking conspiracies. Turner Falls, which is in south central Oklahoma, a giant, beautiful waterfall. So I would visit all these places and then I would tell people about them and I would craft day long Oklahoma kind of tourism experiences and take them to see these places because I noticed that a lot of the people that lived in Tulsa or lived in Oklahoma City, they never really left those urban environments. It was really rare for them to do that. So they didn't know we had places like the Wichita Mountains or the Ouachita Mountains or Little Sahara or any of those things. So I loved crafting those experiences. That's me plugging Oklahoma too, by the way. I love where I live. So I also had a strong desire to be independent and a love of freedom. So I liked being self-sufficient. I liked being trusted with responsibilities at any of the jobs that I worked at. I remember I worked construction in high school and college, and I was assigned to do inventory on old appliances within one of the phases of the apartment complex that we were renovating. And I came up with I didn't know this at the time. They just gave me like a clipboard with a notepad on it. But I basically came up with a spreadsheet. I came up with different column headers and recorded data like serial numbers, condition, all that good stuff. And they hadn't asked me to do any of that. And so when I came back and showed them this, they went, wow, that's better than we thought that it would be. And I did that on my own, in my own way. And I was complimented for it. I liked solving problems. So one of the reasons I do what I do is because I love hearing the origin story of the different businesses or tribes or medical groups that we work with. I like hearing about their original vision and where they are now and where they could use our help with creating a brand or getting the word out about what they do. I really enjoy especially business and harnessing art and creative with technology in order to fix business problems. So I knew I had those skills, and out of that, a business began to form. So I knew I've had probably 5 or 6 businesses at this point that were LLCs or S corps, and the first 3, 4 of them really bit the dust hard because I knew nothing about business. I had no idea how to do my own books, no clue on how payroll and taxes worked. I leveraged debt in those early businesses, particularly credit cards. I didn't take out large loans, thankfully, but I did end up with about $18,000 in credit card debt after my second and third business failed. And I had no idea how marketing worked. So my third business was a dance club. It was a swing dance club that also had like Latin and break dancing and stuff like that. And when we first opened, we did a radio spot. We printed off flyers. There was a local college, Oral Roberts University, and their chapel would let out, and our dance club was clean, meaning we didn't have smoke or alcohol or anything like that. And so we handed out flyers at the Oral Roberts Chapel. Man, just so many things now that I just shake my head and be like, oh man, I mean, for where we were at grassroots, I suppose that was good. But so we had a pretty stellar opening night. I mean, we were filled pretty much to capacity. And then the night following that, which we had pretty much done zero promotion for, no one, and I mean no one, showed up. And it was a Sunday, which who goes to a dance club on a Sunday? Come on, let's be honest. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Those are your days. But we hired a band for a pretty penny and had great live music playing, but no one showed up. Oh, it was awful. I didn't have a business plan either. Let me go back to the marketing thing real quick. Okay, so I didn't promote the following night, And I didn't go out to my target audience and ask them what they wanted before we opened. I just kind of opened the dance club thinking, I'll just open every night and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, right. That's not how things work. So I didn't go to my market, and I didn't bring my product to market, which is what marketing is all about. So anyway, I didn't have a business plan. So it was, I remember having kind of, cocktail napkin conversations with my business partner at the time, being like, okay, if we were full every night of the week, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, we'd be cajillionaires. If we charged this much cover and we sold this much product, well, guess what? You're not going to be at capacity every single day if you're running a dance club. You're not going to be open every single day if you're smart. Not everybody's going to buy a drink. Not everybody's going to want to pay cover. Some will leave when they're told that. So anyway, we did new business person math, basically, naive math, kiddo math, and said, here's what the rosiest possible picture would look like. What we did not do is to say, what are the expenses and what do we need to make in sales? We didn't account for expenses at all, I don't think. So I didn't have a business plan, and I didn't have a plan past that opening night even. It was just promote that opening night. And after that, everybody's going to love us and it's going to be gravy. I was in my early 20s when this happened, by the way. So, please forgive me. So I failed a lot, and maybe there's a business owner out there who hasn't, but if there is, I haven't met him. Every single business owner that I've met, successful, multi-million, decamillionaires, all have made mistakes. And really, sometimes the bigger you are, the harder you fall. So there are some pretty big mistakes that are made even when you're way up there. So don't fear that. So out of that, here's where it starts to turn around. So from a story perspective, it's like, thank God, it's turning around. So out of that came Aqua Vita. So I've told that origin story already, but the business that we were at wasn't doing so hot. Housing market was crashing, lots of unrest. Thank God Aqua Vita started well, because I was able to take 27 of our clients with us from that previous company. And this time I had learned enough to know that I needed to gather a group of professionals around me that knew what the heck they were doing. So I immediately went out and I'm like, we need a contract, and I don't know anything about contract law. So I got a lawyer and I had them draft a contract based on my requirements. I didn't know anything about doing payroll and all the HR involved in that, and reporting taxes and paying taxes and issuing income statements at the end of the year for my employees. I didn't know any of that. So I knew I needed that. I knew I didn't want to manage our books. I needed somebody that was really good to set them up, teach me on them, and then give me enough knowledge that I could teach somebody else to do it internally. So I got an accountant. And I got the best dadgum team ever. Several members of which, the original team, are still here at Aqua Vita, and I was so lucky to have talented people on the production side. Next thing that I did right was no debt. And not only did the no debt strategy save me money because I didn't pay interest on that or fees on that, but it allowed me to very quickly take the temperature of my business. And here's what I mean by that. So if you have a huge loan, or if you have a lot of credit cards, and let's say you have a dip in revenue, well, you can just cover some of those expenses on a credit card, right? And it feels kind of painless because you did that, because yay, credit card saved the day. It just kicked that problem down the curve. Whatever is causing that problem that is making you go out there and use debt to solve it, it's going to stick around, and it'll compound over time until you can't control it anymore. And because I was paying for things with cash, I had to fix the problem. If I didn't fix the problem, we could the cash only goes so long. It will run out eventually. So when you pay with cash and don't leverage debt, for me anyway, it's allowed me to very quickly know what works, what doesn't, and to pivot and support things that are working really well, and to get away from the things that are not working very quickly. I also invested very heavily in my personal growth by reading lots and lots of books, attending classes, keeping journals, having a lot of mentor breakfasts, lunches, and coffee dates with experienced mentors. So here are a few of the books that I would recommend that you read, and I'm just gonna go through them super fast because there's a lot of them, and this is just a fraction of them. But leaders or readers. So if you're not regularly reading good books to teach you about your skill, about business, about management, about finance, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I think it was Winston Churchill that said that the best investment is personal investment. That is absolutely true. Okay, so here's some of my favorites. Good to Great, which is taking a company that's doing a good job and transforming it so that it's doing a great job. And this was recommended to me by Julie Guy, who owned Guy Engineering. And I said, Julie, I read the book. And she said, read it again 5 years later. And I did. And she was right. It was worth it. The Compound Effect, which is basically, it teaches you that our actions, both positive and negative, compound over time and become exponential over time. And it gives you good disciplines to learn how to identify negative compounds in your life and amplify the good ones. Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, and that is by John Maxwell, and he writes a lot of good. I mean, his stuff is dense because he quotes other people very heavily, and so you'll actually find a lot of other good books by reading John Maxwell books. And one of my birthday traditions is to get together every year with a group of friends and answer some cool life questions. And some of those, and definitely the process of asking those questions, was greatly enhanced by reading Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is an absolute classic. And that one is, I mean, it is what it says on the tin, right? As the British would say. So we all need to know how to better interact and socialize with other human beings. And he has some great tips on how to do that. Quick tip out of that I thought was really valuable. Abraham Lincoln once was, I think, considering how to solve some major problem. It may have been something to do with the economy. And he paid for a friend of his to come visit and basically just talked at his friend all night. Just needed somebody to listen. And just that process of the guy listening to him helped Abe Lincoln. And Abe valued his friendship all the more for it. So all that said, be a good listener, and that can go a long way in influencing people and winning friends. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I believe Stephen Covey is the author of that. It's a classic. It's really good on time management. That's some of the early time management stuff that I learned from that. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, and that's just a good basic book on budgeting, eradicating debt, saving, investing, and having a plan for your financial future. Also by Dave Ramsey, EntreLeadership. And EntreLeadership is his playbook after running the business for 24, 25 years, and he has some great tips on hiring and firing and managing and all that good stuff. Fix This Next, Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, all by Mike Michalowicz. Just read them. Mike Michalowicz's books, all of the ones that I've listed, are incredibly valuable. But Mike Michalowicz's books, they are very practical guides to fixing very specific business problems, and they give you systems. And the systems they give are both simple and very sophisticated at the same time. So the Clipper Ship Strategy, The 1,000-Year War, Ancient Rome and How It Affects You Today, Whatever Happened to Penny Candy, and Whatever Happened to Justice. And those are all by the same author. He goes by the pen name Uncle Eric in the books. They are by Blue Stocking Press. Gosh, the name escapes me at the moment, but they're all incredible. The Clipper Ship Strategy is on how to pivot very quickly in unstable times, which is really great for where we're at. 1,000-Year War and Ancient Rome and How It Affects You Today, they just give you a really solid and interesting understanding in we are not isolated in history. We are a part of the flow of history, and once you know what's happened before you, you can start to identify how it's actively affecting your life, and you can see certain patterns, and once you understand how the world works, you can just take better advantage of the world that we live in terms of identifying opportunities and identifying threats and taking advantage of the opportunities and avoiding the threats. So Okay, so those are a bunch of the books. I also mentioned the mentor breakfast or the mentor hang, if you will. And in that, I mean, I've had some of those breakfasts where I feel like I've had 4 or 5 years of personal growth in the amount of time that it takes you to eat breakfast if you ask the right questions of people who have decades more experience than you do in a particular subject or subjects, plural. So education. So after the first debacle with the dance club, I realized I really needed to know more about management and accounting in order to be a good steward of my business. So I went back to school and I actually got a college degree while running a business. And my focus was in business and accounting. So I wanted to know the management side, the practical running of it side, and I also wanted to know just how better to understand how books worked and financial reporting worked and just everything that I could about financial management. So again, it goes back to the independence and freedom thing. I want to be free. And as Jim Rohn would say, once you fix the money problem in your life, everything else gets a lot easier, and you can focus more on the other things that you're passionate about and less on how do I make ends meet. Okay, so with all of that foundation under me, I've had a kind of rocky start, so a lot of experience enduring through adversity. I had a lot of mistakes starting out in my career, just like making a ton of business mistakes and then observing the outcome of those mistakes and thank God learning from them. And then the blessing of being able to start fresh with Aqua Vita and to do things in a much better way from the start. So, and persistent education. So now we're starting to scale. And here are a few of the things that I've learned as we're starting to scale. So you need to have a guiding star. So unless you have a destination, I mean, you're just going to stagnate and sit there and tread water, right? So what do you believe? What are your values? What are your dreams? And you need to set time aside. I know it's so difficult to do this, right? Because it's like, for me, I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got my church, I've got my friends, I've got my business, I've got staying in shape and doing meal planning and just cleaning the house and fixing it up and like all these things that demand my attention and are in front of me constantly. And they're all important to me. And this is one of those things where it's, to quote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he has a quadrant of 4 things for time management. And there's one category that's ultra important, and it's called important but not urgent. And that's stuff like this. It's like the big vision stuff. What's my guiding star? What are my values? What are my goals? What are my dreams? And all that stuff, it's really easy to put it by the wayside because it's not immediate productive work. You may not see the outcome of those things for years to come, but if you do not do them, you will be listless and you will have many regrets in life because you're not going to actively be going for the things that you're passionate about. So number 2 in scaling, be awesome. So when I was researching ways to scale a business, I saw a lot about like sale, you need to sell more. I'm like, duh, you need to streamline processes. You need to learn new management skills, etc. What I did not see is be excellent and treat people right. And I would say that absolutely needs to be at the foundation. I was listening to, I forget his last name, Draymond. He's in Shark Tank. He created Fubu, I believe. And he basically said like, hey, if you've got a $20,000 website and your product sucks, you're not gonna move anything. And it was a waste of your money because you tried to amplify crap. And crap, when amplified, turns into more crap. So you need to be excellent at whatever it is that you do. If it's baking pies or building websites or whatever, you need to be awesome at it. Okay. And treat people right always, especially when the crap hits the fan. So hire experts. At every opportunity, you need to hire experts to help you scale. I have made the mistake in my career of hiring people that I was just personally fond of for certain roles that they really weren't qualified for. And the effect of that is it's not good for them because they don't feel like they're producing. They don't feel valued. It's not good for you because you are not getting value. You're often investing and not getting return out of that. When you hire experts, things just go, meaning people that are qualified for the role, they're passionate about it, they bought into the vision of the company, you would be amazed. I mean, things just operate so much more smoothly. You get many times the return on investment. It's just amazing. So right now at Aqua Vita, that's one of the things that we're doing pretty heavily right now. We have hired outside experts in financial infrastructure, project management, video, and content production to come in and audit all of our work and our systems and to advise us on where we can improve. And in some cases, we are actually retaining those individuals to enhance different services that we already offer. And man, does it accelerate the quality and the speed of delivery on those things. So hire partners. So what this means is, because we finance everything via cash and we want to grow sustainably, we are hunting world-class contractors who can join our team by proxy as we scale up. So basically, like I told you, I'm having a financial expert come in and audit how we do our budget and how we do our bookkeeping and how we do our invoicing and estimating and so on. And they are optimizing the workflow of all of that stuff. And then after they're finished, I'm actually going to continue to retain them in a part-time capacity. And over the long term, as that allows us to scale up, because we're now more efficient, we've removed some bottlenecks in our processes by estimating faster, invoicing faster, knowing which services are profitable and which services are not profitable, because we're tracking that really well in our QuickBooks. Now I have the money to take on somebody full-time maybe that can do that. So scaling in that way, going from super professional auditor to contractor to part-timer to full-timer, seems to be working really well for us right now. It's taken a lot of bottlenecks off of us, and it's improving the quality of our product and reducing our stress, because we're not doing things that we don't love to do, right? Okay. And then finally, just never stop looking for opportunities to improve in every category of life. So when I go to the gym, I am looking around for somebody that looks really fit, and I'm observing the movements that they're doing, the workouts that they're doing a little bit, maybe asking them questions if they're comfortable answering questions. And I'm just looking to mix things up and constantly grow to make sure that I stay healthy for the rest of my life. And the same is true in marriage. You've got to work on your marriage. Same is true in parenting. You've got to read books on parenting. By the way, Boys Adrift right now, if you have little boys, Boys Adrift is an awesome book, and I would recommend that you read it, on how little boys learn, and not little boys, but boys in general learn, especially in the context of today's modern world. So that's an awesome one. So never stop looking for opportunities to improve. Okay, anyway, I hope this was all valuable to you. I certainly enjoyed recording it. And thank you again for tuning into the John Talks podcast. If this was valuable to you and you know somebody that can benefit from it, please go out and comment on it, like it. We are on the Apple Podcasts. We're on, I sounded so old. We're on the Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. Soon to be on Amazon, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. So by doing that, by liking it, following us, commenting on us, it just helps us to expand our reach, and I want to reach and help as many people as possible. So thank you for your help in that mission. All right, everybody, we'll have a great weekend or week, depending on when you're listening to this, and we'll catch you next time.